The Chiefs dropped a tough one last Thursday, but it's a new week and a new opportunity to get back on track as Kansas City heads to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Sunday's game will mark the Chiefs' third meeting with Jacksonville in less than a year, as these two squads met in Week 10 of last season before facing off yet again in the divisional round of the playoffs. That first matchup is an interesting benchmark for the Jags as they fell to 3-7 following the game. Afterward, they won 6 of their final 7 games to win the AFC South. One of the main driving forces behind that turnaround was quarterback Trevor Lawrence, who threw for more than 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns last season. One interesting note to keep in mind on Lawrence, however, is his average time to throw. He had the third quickest release of any quarterback in the NFL last season, and when he got rid of the ball in less than 2.5 seconds, he was elite, completing 75% of his passes for 17 touchdowns and just 3 picks. When he held on to the ball for longer than 2.5 seconds, though, Lawrence completed less than 60% of his throws for just 8 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That's something to watch on Sunday. One of Lawrence's top weapons is tailback Travis Etienne, who tallied more than 1,400 yards from scrimmage last season. Etienne is one of the most dynamic players in the NFL, but for what it's worth, the Chiefs held him to less than 80 yards from scrimmage in both of last year's matchups. And speaking of the Chiefs' defense, they're coming off a strong overall showing last week in which they held the Lions to 5 of 15 on third down while allowing just 2 offensive touchdowns. They'll need a similar effort on Sunday against the Jaguars' impressive offensive attack. On the other side of the ball, Jacksonville features one of the better pass rushers in the NFL in defensive end Josh Allen, who recorded 3 sacks last week against Indianapolis. It'll be interesting to see how Allen and the rest of the Jaguars defense elects to play the Chiefs schematically, as quarterback Patrick Mahomes was tremendous against these guys during last year's regular season matchup. Specifically, Mahomes completed 22 of 29 passes for 282 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game when the Jags chose not to blitz. We'll see how the Jags choose to defend Mahomes and company this time around, especially if the Chiefs' offensive line, which didn't allow a single sack last week, can protect against Jacksonville's 4-man rush. It all makes for a big-time matchup on Sunday between 2 of the AFC's best teams, as the Chiefs aim to get into the win column for the first time this year.